Hello and welcome back. Today we'll be recapping Season 1 of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. We open up in a field in Valinor and we hear Galadriel say in a voiceover, "Nothing is evil in the beginning." A gaggle of child elves play in the field. One of them is Galadriel herself, who's already clearly too good for the riffraff she's hanging out with. She makes a little boat and sets it sailing in a creek. It unfolds into an origami swan situation. The other elf kids taunt her and throw rocks at it until it sinks. Post-boat attack, her older brother consoles her. They have a conversation about rocks and boats and how to know which light to follow. He tells her he's not going to be around forever, and she's like, "Excuse me?" That's kind of the whole deal with elves. As he walks off, we see a gorgeous wide shot of Valinor. It doesn't last long though. Galadriel explains that the first Dark Lord, Morgoth, destroyed their two trees, Telperion and Laurelin, which were the light sources in Valinor. He also stole 3 stones containing their light called Silmarils. If you've read the Silmarillion, this is a major party foul. For the purposes of the show, it doesn't seem like we're going to need to know a ton about Morgoth, but I'll explain him like this. He's one of the Valar, a set of angelic beings, but basically is the bully. The elves can't abide this nonsense, so an army, including Galadriel's brother, leaves Valinor. We see a legion of boats traveling across the Sundering Sea to Middle-earth. Hand-to-hand combat, elves fighting orcs in the rain. Galadriel tells us the war left Middle-earth in ruins and lasted centuries. On the battlefield, she picks up a helmet and puts it on a pile so large you might question its structural integrity. Despite the losses, they defeat Morgoth. It's never that easy. Sauron is standing by to fill the power vacuum. Unfortunately, Galadriel's brother dies. Sauron rudely carves a sigil into his skin, and Galadriel takes up not only his dagger, but his mission to wipe out evil from Middle-earth. Sweeping shot over snowy mountains. The elves come with a vendetta. The hunt for Sauron is unsuccessful. Centuries pass. The elves are kind of over the whole thing, except Galadriel. We catch up with her in a small command of elves climbing their way up the icy face of a mountain up north in Forodwaith, the northernmost waste. At the top, an elf who we'll refer as Insubordinate Elf tells Galadriel to forget about this whole thing. Galadriel nopes that idea, and later, in the midst of a raging snowstorm, they wander right into Sauron's stronghold. They make their way into an inner chamber and find an orc corpse welded into a wall. Soon, a snow troll appears and attacks. Galadriel uses a sword as a ramp and does some aerodynamic badassery and takes care of it herself. She wants to press forward, but the rest of the elves mutiny, despite the fact she just saved them. Insubordinate Elf keeps running his mouth. The magical map of Middle-earth takes us to Rovanion, where we find Harfoot hiding from a couple of wandering humans. The elves pass and Harfoot start popping up from all kinds of hiding places to reveal a bustling camp. Harfoot kids, led by one named Nori, are busy raiding berries from an old farm, but they have to split when a wolf turns up. Back at camp, Nori's mom is a little peeved at her mischief. Nori starts wondering about life beyond. It's big, little mermaid, part of your world vibes. Her mom looks tired. Meanwhile, Sadok, who appears to be the elder Harfoot of the crew, seems to think something is off, cosmically speaking. Nori pops up looking for intel and he tells her to mind her own cartwheel. At some point later, some big fiery thing goes streaking through the sky and crashes not far from camp. Nori goes to investigate the smoking crater. Oh good, it's an old man in a lion cloth. Elves reunited. Elrond is up a tree having a poetic moment with his journal when he finds out Galadriel has returned. They reunite, there's some cheek stroking and some elvish, and she gets him up to speed on the whole sigil deal. Galadriel wants to ask the High King Gil-galad for a new command so she can take off again, but Elrond is all cool. If anything, she stayed out too long, and the High King is being gracious in not being mad at her for not coming back sooner. Later, the High King holds a ceremony for Galadriel's company. He spins her findings as proof that the threat is past and Sauron is no longer a problem. Today, our days of peace begin, he explains. Moreover, he awards the crew with the opportunity to return to Valinor, which is technically a good thing, but Galadriel is like, thanks, I hate it. After the ceremony, she skirmishes with Elrond. Evil does not sleep, it waits, she says. He basically tells her not to worry about it and go to Valinor because there's not a single male elf she can count on, apparently. Next, we see Galadriel and company standing in their armor on the deck of a ship heading to Valinor. As they near Valinor, giant clouds open up, light pours through, and everyone on board starts singing, except Galadriel. The other elves are entranced as they get closer to the light. She looks down at her brother's dagger and starts backing up from the light. Insubordinate Elf tries one last time to pressure her into not doing what she knows is the wrong thing. The scene is very Joe Gardner in Pixar's Soul, trying to escape the conveyor belt to the great beyond. Before we know it, Galadriel jumps overboard. Back at Lindon, Elrond chats with the High King, whose sideburns seem to have taken the house, the kids, the dog, and run up from his ears. He introduces Elrond to Celebrimbor, a renowned elven smith who looks like a lost Sheen brother. Later, a singular orange leaf falls in front of the High King. When he picks it up, its veins fill with black crap. It feels inauspicious. Southlands. We soon come upon a rural village of men called Tirhard. Arondir the elf chats with one of the locals and learns that this town of men, generations back, sided with Morgoth and has been occupied by elves ever since. They later get word that the war is over and soon they'll get to go home. Arondir has been at the watchtower by the town for 79 years. Arondir later goes to his human companion Brownwind's house where a guy is parading his cow. When Arondir milks it, it releases a liquid with vicious black sludge. Post-cow sludge, Arondir and Brownwind head east to investigate. They go toward the town where she grew up, and he makes a comment about those folks being descended from Morgoth's supporters. Things are sure heating up, but it's not the romance between Arondir and Brownwind. It's the town, because it's on fire. Well, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed watching this one. Thanks for watching.